Okay, great. Thanks. Good evening and welcome to council. We're on the small screen, Jamie. Is that for a reason or does it matter on your end? Oh. Okay, that's good. Good. Sorry about that, everybody. Good afternoon and welcome to council. Monday, June 13, 2022. Call the meeting to order at 4:00 p.m. As always, remind everybody to shut off or silence their mobile devices. Thank you. And we do have a motion here that council hereby accepts the agenda for Monday, June 13th, 2022 regular meeting of council. Circular amendment moved by Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Bounds. Looks like we'll just rotate between the two. That's fine.
Yep.
All in favor? Barry, thank you. Any disclosure of interest today? Hearing none. I do have a motion here that council hereby adopts the minutes of the regular meeting of council were held on on Tuesday, May 24th, as circulated amended. Moved by Councillor Bell, second by Councillor Lakes. Any errors or omissions or questions on those minutes?
I have just one question on the minutes. So this is just thinking about the years we come. Now we've been allowed to attend virtually, especially if we were off sick. And I noticed in the minutes here, CEO clerk was virtually attended. Are we going to continue that as we move forward? Because previously, before COVID, you had to be present. You couldn't dial in. You couldn't go virtual. Are we going to continue that even after COVID? Just it seems like a really useful tool to have to let us attend.
Yeah, that's virtual participation is something that has been kept in place by the province, even with the COVID restrictions and declarations now complete. So in our current bylaw, it exists, and when the new council is sworn in, they certainly have that ability to include it in the procedural bylaw.
Okay, thank you. That was just the
Right, and then what it makes much more convenient for council members, not only in our community but in other communities as well, to attend.
Yep.
Even though if they're busy or home with a sick kid, you can still be part of the meeting. So it's good to have in place, and it worked really well over the 3 years that we went through it. So I don't see why it wouldn't work in the future.
Okay.
Thanks for that. Anything else? All in favor? Harry, thank you. Okay, up next we have our student councils will provide a verbal update. Councillor Kavner, please.
So our graduation ceremony will be taking place next Friday at 1 p.m. And exams are also scheduled for next week. Block A exams will be taking place on Monday. Block B exams will be on Tuesday, and so on. And then Friday will be a makeup day for any students who have excused absence during their exam. Marathon High School will be welcoming over 50 new grade 9s next year and seeing 23 graduates off this year. And we'd also like to recognize the work of our boys soccer players and their qualifying for OPSA, although they did not make it to the actual tournament due to a clerical error. They did go to Thunder Bay 2 weeks ago and participated in some excellent exhibition games. We'd also like to congratulate Mrs. Sue Rinelli, who is retiring this year, and we'd like to thank her for all her hard work at Marathon High School.
Great, thanks. Councillor Mischik.
So this week marks the last official week of classes at Marathon High School. As mentioned, next week will be our exams. Grade 9 math students are going to be writing their EQAO this Thursday and Friday. So that's the provincial standard testing. And then I just wanted to give council a quick update on the land acknowledgement project that we've been working on. So students from the environmental resource class presented us with a lovely document they came up with. We then brought that document to the Indigenous Youth Council. After a lot of great conversation with the Indigenous Youth Council, we came up with some ideas and some changes that we're going to throw in there. So currently it's just being reworked. Our next steps, we really want to present it back to the Indigenous Youth Council, get their approval on it, and then we'd like to present it to council.
So that will be probably in the fall, I would imagine. Councillor Lake?
Our hope had been to have it ready for the joint meeting between our council and Beatgon's council. I think even if we haven't approved it, it might be worthwhile for especially the two councillors who put the work into it to bring it even as a draft and maybe get comment back from Beatgon proper, or I'm not sure how council wants to proceed, but it's the documents mostly done.
Just some little things need to be fixed, but
and I think that we, as we spoke last meeting about that, is to have you both come to that meeting and enjoy dinner with us in our council meeting. And take 15-20 minutes of the beginning of the meeting to do the presentation and let both councils hear that. Absolutely, Council, like, even though it's not been approved,
Yeah.
something we can do the draft and maybe get some feedback from their council as well if need be. That's fair. You're both good to come for dinner.
The date for that meeting is the 27th?
2 weeks from today.
Yeah.
Okay.
And our regular council meeting will be from 4 to 5:30. 5:30 to 6 will be dinner, and 6 to 7 will be the joint meeting.
Good. You good?
Sounds
Good.
Excellent.
Great. Thanks. Thanks for your reports. And I'd also like to recognize, Mrs. Rinaldi for her great work. We went to a retirement party on Friday evening, and all the teachers there talked, as well as Council Lake, mentioned just recently how much support and resources that the librarian is at the Marathon High School. So they were all very pleased and recognized Ms. Rinaldi as well with her work all the time. So we want to take the opportunity to thank you, both of you as well, for the year that you've given us and the input from the high school and the youth in our community. And it's great to see that your involvement, and also the fact that both of you came out last week to help raise the pride flag. It's good to see that you're getting involved within the community. It would be nice to have more people from your student body, your peers, come out and recognize that in our community as well. But you both did, and thank you for that. But also thank you for the year that you spent with us, and encourage you, if you're still in school next year, to resubmit your name for another year in this council. That'd be awesome, and gives you a good opportunity to understand governance in the community, and maybe that'll bring some in your life forward as you might want to become a leader in the community or wherever you might land as an adult. So thank you for that very much. And I got a little gift here from our council to you both for your participation. So
Your worship, maybe we can get you and council and the student councilors, and we'll get a picture.
that'd be awesome. Thanks. So we'll probably be right in the face of the
We'll stand in front of the owl.
owl, yeah. Whatever. Okay. Yeah.
This is their best employee, right?
Yeah.
You're talking about. Look
So,
at that.
Laura and Kate, so thank you. I think we're gonna probably have to squeeze in as best we can.
Come on, man.
How's that? Good, thank you guys, appreciate it, thank you.
Thank you. More years.
4 more years. Well, come October, we might have a chance to spend the 4 more years together, see how that goes. So thanks for the student council update, and once again, thanks for your time this year and the year of council. Up next, we have verbal discussions required regarding the use of the golf course clubhouse. Mr. Korchinski.
So, your worship, no report with this one. I just want to have a bit of a conversation with council. We're starting to see, obviously, as we can see, last year we completed the clubhouse, got it open, but really didn't provide the final touches to it. We're now in that process and, completing the finalization of that. And we're starting to see more inquiries come in asking for use of the clubhouse for events outside of things like golf and skiing in the wintertime. So just wanted to have a discussion with council on your vision for this. I know we had talked about it as part of the budget process and really weren't at that point to look at doing that. And it's not included in the budget, but if, council does want to see this move forward, I don't think it's appropriate that it's a guideline or an administrative decision. I do believe it has to be a municipal policy on how it's going to operate for us to do that. So really what I'm looking for tonight from council is, do you want to see us bring a report forward for private event use at that facility and look at developing a draft policy to support that? I don't see it happening in 2022, to be honest. We just haven't created the budget and we're already in mid-June, and I just, it'll be difficult to complete that over the summer timeframe as well as with an upcoming election. But just looking for feedback from council on your thoughts around the policy regarding private event usage at that facility. And I guess, by extension, we would probably look at, an overarching policy, looking at other facilities as we go forward with replacement of some of our aging infrastructure.
Great, thanks. I'll go to Councillor Lake.
I think that was always part of our vision for building that facility. Certainly, what we don't want to do is hurt the service organizations we have. But the Moose is no longer with us, so it's a facility down anyway. I think there's probably a need to be able to host those things. The thing I don't understand is I'm not a golfer, so I don't know how that would impact golfing. or skiing. So that's the kind of policy work it'd be nice to have. How do we make it work so that it doesn't impact, the folks that are using that for recreation? But I think, I think about places that have a wedding or an event. Certainly, that seems like as long as we're not intruding on private business or volunteer services, there's room in Marathon for that, as far as I'm concerned.
Great, thanks, Councillor Reynolds.
I 100% totally support it. That's always been something I wanted to see happen. So yeah, I'm excited about the opportunity and the potential for it. So yeah, I definitely would support a report coming back to council.
Yeah, I too as well, and I know that Councillor Lake made mention of the fact that it might impact some of our social services and community volunteers. Those facilities are much bigger, so people do like the fact that it's a smaller venue. So yeah, we do rent our facilities up from time to time for other opportunities, and Lakeview Center and the arena, the upstairs viewing room, we've rented out to different groups and organizations for different functions. So yeah, I fully support a motion that would. Well, you don't need a motion, I guess, just a report coming back to council in the fall with some language to address that. Good.
Yep. So just to clarify though, if somebody did have something they wanted this summer, that's kind of off the table. There's no policy. They wouldn't be able to rent that facility this summer.
Yeah, and the reason administration is bringing this forward now is, we have a number of requests that have been brought forward. And they vary from, weddings to private functions. And rather than us say yes to one or no to the other one, it needs to be in a policy. So realistically, I think it's highly unlikely we can get anything done before the September meeting. We are going to, take some time off this summer, all of us, and I think that's fair. And, I know there'll be some disappointed people, but there's a lot of user groups and there's a lot of moving pieces to consider. It's not as simple as let's just open it up for private event usage. There's a lot of things to consider. It needs to be a well thought out policy. We'll obviously do a lot of research from other facilities. And I think if we bring it forward to council in September, there will also likely be some budget implications for 2023, depending on, the route we go out there. So I think that timing and when we start our budget research administratively is generally early September. We bring, some draft budgets to council over the November, December timeframe. I think that works well in looking at this to bring it forward for 2023 if council approves it.
Certainly, and I appreciate that, and I think that if any interested groups out there, maybe through our staff, that they can be directed to the social clubs of the Legion, private entrepreneurs in town that have spaces that are available for that type of event for now. They can make choices in the new year once we set a policy. Thanks for that. Anything else on that?
No, I was just going to add really quick that the majority of the events for 2022 now probably already have dates and venues scheduled. So it's exciting to have the ball rolling for next year. So
You're just one other thing to point out. We obviously want to see usage at the course, and if while you can't have a private event, if you wanted to come, book 2 hours of tea times because you have a group in town and you want to go golfing and then you want to stay and have dinner in the clubhouse after, that's certainly something we support. It's just right now we're not renting it out exclusively, I guess would be the right language.
Okay, good. Awesome. Thanks. Okay, up next we have report disconnecting from work policy. Ms. Gauthier, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. On December 2nd, 2021, Bill 27, the Working from Workers Act, received royal assent. The bill amended employer obligations under the Employee Standards Act, with respect to disconnecting from work. Employers with 25 or more employees as of January 1st of a given year are required to implement a policy on disconnecting from work and provide it to all existing and new employees within 30 days. TMS 0019, disconnecting from work, has been developed to meet the town's legal requirements under the Working from Workers Act. The policy must apply to all employees of the organization, regardless of their role in the organizational structure or nature of their position. Legislation does not specify policy content provisions. However, legal partners are advising that policies be practical, reasonable, and non-restrictive. Administration is confident that policy TMS 0019 will support staff's well-being through ensuring they know and can disconnect from work when able and as appropriate for their position. The policy also asks that all staff be mindful of when and how they communicate with others and to respect the right of their colleagues to disconnect. Employees must still uphold the requirements of their positions. However, they should not feel the need to communicate for work outside of these responsibilities where no immediate reply is required. There's no financial implications for this policy. Your options are A, approve policy TMS 0019 as presented, B, approve the policy with additions or alternate revisions, or C, do not approve the policy. Your administration is recommending that option A be selected and that the policy for disconnecting from work be approved as presented, and further that this policy be included in the town's policy guideline manual.
Thanks for that report, and I do have a motion from the floor. The council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation on disconnecting from work policy TMS0019. That policy TMS0019, disconnecting from work, be approved as presented, and further that a copy of this policy be placed in the town's policy guideline manual and be moved by Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Balance. Questions? Councillor Lake.
Yeah, so I was trying to, we're such a small organization, and I know especially administratively, somebody's always on call. So I saw in here that there, in a case of emergencies or on call, you can still be contacted outside of work, but I just wondered how you still as administration have the right to send an email anytime you want. It's just the expectation to respond. Like you don't have to wait, until 9 a.m. on Monday to send an email. You could send it on the weekend, but the response is what's dictated?
That's correct.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that.
And I think another important note on that item with respect to council and the CAO in particular, it's a little bit different in the sense that, you guys hold regular jobs.
Yeah.
So I do have an expectation that, some of what you send me will be after hours, and a response will be required. So that's contained within the policy that there's, I guess, the proper legal term would be reasonable expectation.
Okay.
Is the best way to put it.
So you can send an email whenever you want. It's just you don't expect the response until work hours. Okay, good. I just didn't know if I had to change times you sent them.
Councillor Balance, you ready?
And I'm assuming this all came out of everyone working from home and COVID and the global kind of workforce environment shifting and everything. And now as we shift back somewhat, it's more to remind people and stay cognizant that it is okay to take that time you need. So to avoid burnout and everything.
Yeah, I think that's what the government had in mind with this.
Sure, and I think that for the responsibility of employer to the employee, you're not on the clock unless you're on an after hours call out, and you're scheduled for that call out period of time. So it's not expected for an employee to respond, and that becomes then, of course, then a real detriment to their health and well-being. One question I have in that regard is that where no immediate reply is required, so that would be, again, as Mr. Skorchinski has identified, with mayor and councils, Friday night, it could be a request that, something come up, but in the regard for an employee, that would only be in regards to the employee on call.
So what is there a specific?
Right, just where no immediate, so it goes on to say employees must still uphold the requirements of their position, however, where they should not feel the need to communicate or work outside their responsibilities, where no immediate reply is required. So if they're not on call, they don't have to respond, like as Councilor Lake said, till Monday morning at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock.
That's correct. Or even, in the instance that, I sent an email to Ms. Gauthier on Friday night at 7 o'clock, right? There shouldn't be an expectation that, I get a response on Saturday.
Right.
No.
Especially since we all carry cell phones, we have our work email on us all the time. I might be checking my email and be like, oh, Daryl's emailing me at Friday at 7. I need to answer that right away.
Right.
Well, no, it's not an emergency. That can wait until Monday. Yeah.
Just so there's no challenging of that. It's a flexible process. It's a working and living document.
And it also has, a further outreach within the public. The public should not, unless it's an emergency,
Right.
should not have an expectation of a response on, non-work time regarding a very general question, right? And I just want to provide a little more context with respect to Councillor Valence's question. Some of this legislation is coming out of lawsuits where there was an onus put on employees outside of their working hours to respond to electronic communication and not get paid. So as an example, we're on the clock from 8 to 4:30, and then after 4:30, we're not being compensated by the municipality. So there shouldn't be a large expectation to work outside of those hours unless you're getting compensated. So that's also a part of this, with respect to digital communications, right? Is to make, so it's now in law where you cannot force somebody, right, unless it's in their contract language, to respond to emails at 7 o'clock at night.
Right.
So.
Absolutely.
Well, you know what, to me, the bigger issue is as well, we could all live in Toronto if we wanted to, but I think one of the reasons we live here is you can go out and you can golf or fish or hunt or be on the land. And I think that expectation that you're working 24/7 is detrimental to the health of your organization in the end, right? You need employees that are balanced and are coming to work feeling refreshed. And I think probably you two get it the worst because I'm sure there's emails piling up all weekend. So I hope that filters down to everybody in the organization, because you should be coming in on Monday feeling like, okay, I'm ready to go. But if you've been stressed out and working all weekend, you come in thinking, oh, here we go again. So I think that's the bigger thing, right? Like keeping your staff feeling engaged.
Well, when you have such a hard time to, I guess, the workforce as a generalization with right now recruitment and succession and all of that. So yeah, avoiding burnout, mental health and stuff. Makes sense.
Yeah, so now if we can relay this back to the public issues, Mr. Brzezinski, and say that, even though we're elected officials, we're not expected to be on the clock 24/7, 7 days a week. It's a little different because we don't have a specific set of hours we work, but the expectation is still that we will get back to you in a fair amount of time, which is fair and equitable for everybody, not expected to be 5 minutes after you've sent the email or the call and request information or callback. We have a process in the municipality. You can reach out to the mayor or council at any time and leave a message through the CAO, or you can call the manager after hours and get that individual to have a message. And you stated very clearly, unless it's an actual emergency, nobody will respond typically for at least 48 hours till the following work day, which would be a Monday for that example. Yeah, thanks. Okay, so all that in favor? Carried. Thank you. Thanks for that report. Up next, we have a report on surplus properties within the municipality. And Mr. Burbo is going to give us an update on the corner of McCullough and Winton Streets.
A resident has inquired on whether the municipality would sell the adjacent lot to his residence located at 2 McCullough Street. The dimensions of the lots means that it's too small to erect a single-family dwelling. Municipality does not utilize the lot for any purpose, but it does require grass cutting during the summertime. Bylaw 1617 outlaws the procedures with respect to the sale and other disposition of lands, including declaring the property surplus to the requirement of the municipality. According to the bylaw, the clerk shall be responsible for obtaining one or more independent appraisals prior to consideration by council of a motion to sell the property, except in some cases where an appraisal, in the opinion of the clerk, is not necessary or advisable in the circumstances. Administration is recommending that appraisal is not necessary in this case. An appraisal would be time-consuming and expensive process that will not likely result in any additional information regarding resaleability that we do not already have. Administration is proposing that the property be advertised on the town's website as vacant land available for sale. As per bylaw 1617, the neighboring property owners will be notified that the property is available. Any proposal will be considered with due diligence and be reviewed according to the official plan and the zoning bylaw. Property is currently vacant municipal land and therefore exempt from taxation. Any proceeds from a sale will be recognized as general revenues. So the options are to declare lot 339 of Plan M114 as surplus to the requirements of the municipality with your attached resolution, or do not declare the property as surplus and do not dispose of it. Administration recommends that option A be selected and that the town of Marathon declare the property as surplus to the requirements of the municipality and authorizes administration to proceed with the disposition of the asset.
Great, thanks for that. I do have a motion here. Council hereby accepts the attached report and recommendation of surplus land declaration in the corner of McCullough and Winton Streets. And further, the council hereby declares lot 339 of plan M14114 as surplus to the requirements of the municipality and authorize administration to proceed with the disposition of the asset. It's moved by Councilor Lake, second by Councilor Valens. Any questions? Mr. Verbal? Yep, Councilor Lake.
So I remember we've had precedent for this. We've done this with other properties where they weren't full lots, and I have no problem with the disposition. My only question would be, right now it's a nice clean lot, nothing on it. If I were, like, I got lots of toys, if I were to apply and then use it to park my trailers, and that wouldn't be an option for that piece of land, would it? Because what I don't want to see is it get all junked up or somebody use it as parking. Because, I mean, See that.
There's also that yield sign coming right out of there too, so if you were to put something like a massive boat there, it could potentially, the visibility, and it's a yield rate, so.
We have some control by asking what their intentions of doing it, but once it's sold, then we won't have much control. They can use it as a parking lot. They won't be able to, if they build something, it'll have to be based on the building code.
Mr. Scorsese?
Yeah, I don't have the zoning bylaw in front of me, but I do know it quite well. So to the councilor's question, buying the piece of property and building a garage to store things, it won't, the size of the lot won't support that. So having it for pure storage, that would be dictated also by zoning, but also by property standards. Right, so, really there's no real advantage to buying a piece of property unless you're a landholder nearby where you could look at consolidation as an option.
And that I'd be thrilled with, but I just worry about what if somebody who's not from that area buys it and is like, oh, I just want to do.
So from a process perspective, as soon as we get a bid, we'll compare it against all the appropriate municipal bylaws and legislation. And if it's not a fit, then we return the bid. Right? It can, and this is not an item we wouldn't look at bringing this to committee of adjustment for non-conforming.
Okay.
It has to meet the standard or it doesn't.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor Mill?
Would, say, a seller buy it, be able to then take it to the minor variance committee and ask for like the opposite of a severance and merge the two parcels of land together?
That's the process that's allowable right now is a consolidation. And that's all, and that's why I said in that particular instance, if there was an adjacent landowner looking at that, then, that makes sense. It's a piece of property that doesn't have municipal needs that we maintain at a cost. And in that case, it completes that corner as an example.
And then would they be able, because wouldn't the measurements change and that lot then kind of make one massive lot? And then would they be able to do like a utility shed or something on there? If it bleeds into the
Potentially, but again, it still has to go through that vetting process of the zoning bylaw and the official plan.
Okay, with all that being said, all in favor? Okay. Great, thanks for that, Mr. Purple. I'm just gonna run and grab my report. I didn't bring it out for the police and safety meeting, sorry.
So student counselors are going to sing us a song, maybe? Some entertainment?
So I'm just going to do a quick report in regards to the Ontario Police Services Board's AGM that was held in Toronto on the 26th and 7th of May. First one in 3 years I've attended in person due to COVID, obviously. Opening remarks and greetings from Patrick Weaver, who is the chair of the Ontario Police Services Board. There's 15 members on the board from across the province, and there's, I think, big 12. So there's 12 zones. We're zone 1, and then there's zone 1A, and then it goes all the way down to Southern Ontario. There's 12 different zones within the province of Ontario and 15 members on the board. Modernizing police governance in Ontario. This was all about the police services boards are being looked at, as we know, through the community safety plans. What does the boards look like? Amalgamations and policing throughout the province, whether you're Section 10, which is OPP contract, or Section 31, which is municipal police forces. That was quite interesting, and of course, no real answers because we were in the throes of an election process. So until the new Solicitor General is appointed and we could get back onto this process and get it resolved. Leading with priorities in equity, diversity, inclusion. This was in regards to the anti-racism within policing. It's still happening all throughout Ontario, as well as we see. Anybody click the news on, you can look at it throughout any part of the Canada or United States, specifically United States, but Ontario it happens as well. This was really eye-opening in regards to how we can present this and have individuals on forces. And typically it was made mention at that presentation that a very small percentage male on a police force that are in this category. But yet, if you have a police force of 400 members and you have 5%, that's 20 members who have that within them. It really reflects on the whole police force. So it's just a small amount of people can really put detriment into the policing aspect. And then raising awareness of rural communities, which is where we fall in regards to our needs and how we policing with most of us as rural highways, some small issues. And most of our rural communities in general are safer communities. As we know, our crime rates are lower, but unless you're closer to the bigger centers where you might have some fallout from the bigger centers into smaller communities, we typically are much quieter. So this was all about that and the resiliency in officers and within a lot of the counties of Southern Ontario they talked about as well, because we are rural, they are rural, but there's 10 million people live down in Southern Ontario, and that sounds like a rural place, but not really, because the counties is just a small community. Then to 15 minutes you're into a big center, right? So they're still finding issues with that. Policing 23 and beyond. This was done by the Toronto Police Association and the Assembly of First Nations and Chiefs of Police in regards to what does it look like for policing. And policing, like any other form of employment, is struggling to attract employees. Their recruitment is down. Their forces are looking always for new recruitment situations and people to join the forces, whether it's Section 31s or OPP. So that was very informative, as well as where we are with that. OPP stakeholder survey and detachment performance reporting. It's about your detachment, how your detachment doing. I've been the chair for 15 years in Marathon. I've always had a great relationship with the detachment commander. From time to time, you have some detachment commanders that are better than others in regards to their community involvement and responding to community needs and inquiries. But you still work with them, and because you're a smaller force and a smaller community, you can typically get that person on board and looking at the community specific. And in that discussion, it was also made mention that most of the stuff, Section 31, Section 10, the contract policeman OP, is still directed from regional for us outside of Thunder Bay, and regional is directed from Aurelia. So even though we think we have a community-based policing, we can have input, but all the direction is still coming from Aurelia, and everybody agrees to that with that. So, and then we had a discussion around elections, and with our area, Zone 1, Kevin Holland is also, Kevin Holland was just elected, but this is previous to the election, of course. His seat will be open, so I was invited to sit as a member. So we are in Zone 1 looking. I agreed to let my name stand for a position on the Ontario Police Services Board's committee. So that Kevin got elected. He's now has to resign, so there will be the seat open. I will my name standing. So it has to go to the R zone for ratification, and then that'll be happening probably this week. And then it'll come back to my council. And the difference with police servicing boards, but I would prefer my council support it before I accepted it, because just like the AMO, where you have to have council's approval, the police service doesn't do that, but I would still have council support that, because there is a time and a cost associated with being a member on that board. Some of your costs obviously are picked up like AMO through the association, but there's still some costs back to the municipality that are affecting. Then there was an evening dinner and more social, some activities and comedy act, and it was always fun. Then we had a keynote speaker was very good, and this is Dr. Ivan Joseph. He is very amazing fella. He came from South America, and as a youth he was sponsored by different organizations because he had these athletic abilities. But he also went through life as a black man, and of course through racism and all that. But he rose to the top, and he's the director of at the I think it's Toronto Metropolitan University now. That he is the athletic director, and he was all throughout the states as different directors of athletic programs and coaches, and taught Olympians, and really a great motivational speaker, man. It's like amazing. I took a video because I was so impressed with some of his discussions. And he talked about, again, inclusiveness and racism within policing and in every organization. And he talked about how he had racisms and he had biases within his own system. And he talked a little bit about joking around how, he's at a conference and there's like another black fellow there, and they say, man, they had a little kind of smooching moment where the way they talked was very biased to the other people that were in the room. So he made fun of the fact that his own bias to another black man compared to all the white people in the room And it just got you all thinking, and it was like honestly really good. I don't know what he charges for that, but I'm sure it was not cheap because any of those keynote speakers typically start off at about $5,000 or higher for the 1 hour and 15 minutes he gave us. But it was well worth it. He was very good. And then of course we had a welcoming from the new police services boards. I would have been able to be elected at that point, but we had to wait for Kevin to see what's happening there. Cannabis Act, talked a bit about that. This was really funny how they talked in length about cannabis and the regulations that were both federal and provincial around the medical cannabis, and how doctors are now prescribing medical marijuana of 200 grams a day. Like that's it. Nobody can, like, I even laughed, and I think the majority of us in the room who are older who understands, maybe you can smoke a couple grams a day if you're really a heavy smoker, but 200 grams a day, that's a lot of marijuana, a lot of weed. But yeah, so they did a whole study on that, and they're trying to address it now because there are doctors who are prescribing that. So that means that the patient can have 50 plants, 100 plants. So what they're creating is a grow-up, which they're trying to get away from. They legalize marijuana. They legalize you to grow marijuana in your home 4 or 8 plants if you medically need to save money. But now with these, and it's no different than the OxyContin program that was out there. And they talked a bit about that, how doctors are doing it for fees for service, right? Come and see me, I'll write you a prescription. I'm not talking about any other docs. I'm talking about docs in general that are not doing it kosher, I guess, in the sense that above board properly. So they're trying to put policy in place to stop that. But you know how government works. We all recognize that, how the red tape and how long this will take. It'll be years. Then of course we had the general meeting for the police services board, and just talked about the new executive director. She came in, at least starting, and she had COVID, so she was on. There's a prime example. She was live streaming, and she talked about how she's excited about her new role. Look forward to meeting with the members at the next board meeting. Hopefully she wouldn't have the COVID, and how she would now have the opportunity, whoever the appointed Solicitor General was going to be, how that would be an opportunity to have the board meet with the Solicitor General to look at getting the community safety plan issues resolved, the community amalgamations of boards resolved, and moving on with the Safer Communities Act through the province of Ontario. That was about it. Any questions? It was good. I enjoyed it, and it was about. And a lot of these conferences, when we do our AMO board meeting in next week, I think is we'll find out what FCM was like, because they did a hybrid with FCM, and this was a hybrid as well, but there was some hiccups. We couldn't get so the technology is there, but we're trying to get it all worked out. So there was probably 70-30, 70% of people came in person, 30% were doing it from home for various reasons, whether I'm still afraid to come out in public or cost savings, all those things, right? And it could work in all organizations, but I think they're trying to get all the boats, and it's a cost. Yeah. Even though we say it costs money to go to Toronto, but to have a team, they had a whole team of videographers and techie people at the meeting, and trying to do no different than they did at Fort Francis, right, Greg? They had a whole team there that cost $4,000, $5,000. So in a small event like that, so the bigger the event, the more money it costs for the organization. Well, of course, who pays for the organization? All of us. Okay, nothing on that. Up next, we have bylaw number 28, 2028 being a bylaw to amend bylaw number 1904 being a bylaw to permit and regulate operation of off-road vehicles on designated highways within the municipal boundary of the town of Marathon. For the first, second, and third time, it finally passes 13th day of June 2022. Moved by Councillor Valens, second by Councillor Lake. Questions on that? Councillor Valens.
How well attended was the info session for with the public and the OPP partnership?
Very, very poorly.
Yeah.
We might have had 20 people here.
I think
Councillor Lake.
20.
Yes, that.
It was a bit disappointing, and I think the people who were here understood it, and they were trying to get understanding. And again, it's all simply about this: is about your legalization of how can you drive a vehicle in the municipality? Yes, you can. You got to have license, you got to have insurance, you got to have all the regulations that fall under the Highway Traffic Act. And even since our last meeting with Chris Whaley down at the theater, the law has changed, allowing even side-by-sides to operate within municipalities, whereas before they didn't. So that's fine, but you still gotta have a license, you gotta have a certain age, you gotta have seatbelts on, you gotta wear a helmet. All that information was shared, so that'll, it was an Mercury as well, and it was identifying that, so. It's a tool that you must look at. It's not something you can just get on your four-wheeler and go to school or go uptown to the grocery store at 14 with no driver's license and no insurance. So, anything else? Councilor?
Yeah, I'd like to certainly thank the bylaw officer because on Thursday, she's coming to the high school. We didn't get any high school students at that meeting and lots of interest in that. And that's the high risk category. Student counselors could probably speak to that those are, before you get your driver's license, that's when the ATV is most important. So she's going to come and meet on Thursday with that group. The thing that in listening to the group, it's interesting, right? I think it was a very respectful group, and they want, I think, ultimately to drive ATVs wherever they want. Right? If I want to go to the Legion, I want to drive my ATV or shopping store. I think the OPP officer in particular did a really nice job of talking about why that might not be the best thing. What I was really happy to see is some of the areas of contention. I kind of highlighted the four. So I have a side-by-side, and I like to go out for rides. And the four places that I think are sticking points for lots of people in the municipality are the Camp 19 Road, because that gives you access back into the woods. The Carden Cove Road, because it's a dirt road that I think people ride in general. And then getting through Del Earl and Penn Lake safely, because they're kind of choke points where we don't want anybody in the park, but it's kind of the one way through town. So I just, I like that the ski hill's no longer on this list, but I just wonder if, as we move forward, if there's ways to work with, especially some of those, the users that came and were quite respectful and I think want the system to work better, kind of like the snow kicker guys. How do we work with them to say, okay, if if Del Earl is frustrating and we're forcing you onto the road, and we can all see the damage being done there from the operator's perspective, who can we work with to sort of make the best out of those situations? Because the bylaw, it seems to work well. I don't hear a lot of complaints. I don't see a lot of ATVs ripping up streets. So things are working on that level, but how do we what's the process for fine tuning and for working with that group to make sure we're doing the best job we can? I don't know. It's hard to.
Mr. Richardson.
Good question, good comments, and I'm happy to provide some administrative insights. We're amending this bylaw purely for one reason today. The original bylaw contained the VIC and the lands tied to the VIC. We no longer own those lands, of course. We sold that to Victacom. So the amendment today isn't changing the original bylaw. It's removing the visitor information center. So it's purely housekeeping. Okay. So that's what you're passing with the bylaw today. Okay. The real issue that we face with ATVs, snowmobiles, is joint and several liability. So that's our real administrative concern. So when something happens, as we've all learned from an insurance perspective, joint and several liability means the deepest pockets pay. So if something happens on municipal property that we've allowed to happen, everybody's going to get sued who's involved. But ultimately, who's going to pay the most is the municipality. So when we open up areas for things like the potential of ATV traffic and human interaction, we open ourselves up to a lot of liability. That's not the answer that an ATV user wants to hear, but it's advice we're going to provide to council administratively. So I always think there's an option to have dialogue around how can we improve the bylaw. But I think it's important that we educate people on the system like joint and several liability, because that does guide things like this to ensure that we protect not only ourselves, but the corporation, which is ultimately all of the residents.
Yeah, so Councilor Lake mentioned that. So last time we had the actual bylaw discussion at the theater, I went and took the town's bike. I had been on trails a long time, and all the spots you just identified, like the Del Earl and the Penn Lake, you can access the bush trails without going through the parks.
Yeah.
You can do it easily. You just have to go around. Like, for example, on St. Crescent, you have to leave your home. You have to go down along the corridor. There's a corridor along between the CPR property and the town property.
Yeah.
That's a corridor. Yeah. It goes all the way down to the actual town follow tunnel. That follow tunnel takes you all the way back in behind Penn Lake without coming across any road. And no different at Penn Lake. You can go up alongside the corridor of the road, up into the back way into the hydro line. So I agree with Mr. Skorczynski. We can't, and there's actually another request here for the joint several liability. It's just simply that, and we know we're over doubled our insurance in the last 3 years or 4 years, so it just continues to rise. Councillor Lake?
I just wonder if there's like a place like, I mean, I used to live on Van Horn, and there's a trail that runs behind that ditch that goes all the way along. It's actually a perfect way to avoid all of town, but it's really grown in now. And so I know I've talked to the students that I talk to say, well, I can't use that anymore because it's so grown in. So I don't know if there's an opportunity to work with an ATV organization to maybe brush that trail out that would provide access along that back of, it's basically all of Hemlow and then back along the Poplar in that area.
Worship.
That kind of solutions, I guess, what I was thinking of.
Councillor Reynolds?
Yeah, and is there actually an organized group right now, like the Snow Kickers, that's geared towards more summer, spring ATV activities?
No.
And then
the individuals, sorry to cut you off there, the individuals that tried to work with the Snow Kickers, there was a few individuals at that last meeting.
Yeah.
I think they had a couple of preliminary meetings and nothing came out of that. We talked about it that night as well. Right?
So then is there maybe an opportunity in, I know this will fall into next council and all that, but could signage maybe be something that we look at up in Penn Lake to keep people going the right pathway? I'm not an ATV user myself, right? So
We did a good job on Penn Lake Road. It's got those signs that say to the brightest sign. That seems to work. The trail seems to be there.
Well, and I think to your suggestion, Councillor Lake, it doesn't need to be an organized group. I think that's a good example, right behind Van Horn, right? If that's something that, somebody does have to organize the approach to the municipality, but if it was Joe Smith on behalf of, 15 ATV users who put their name to the request and that they want to help with brushing that out, that's certainly something we would entertain. We're not going to say we would approve it today, but if somebody makes that approach, we're going to look at it pragmatically and see if it's possible.
Okay.
So, or if it was a group of students from, the high school, but there does have to be a person who's going to organize it, right? Because ultimately, even if we allowed volunteers to do that, it's under our insurance because we've allowed it. So there's a process, but, we're open to that dialogue and certainly would relay that back to council.
That's great to hear. That's all
You
you
good, Councillor?
Yep.
So on your meeting with the bylaw officer at the school, maybe that could be some of the discussion that the students can have, or you can bring up for maybe discussion point.
And it's Block D on Thursday. So if the student counselors are free, we're going to do it in the library. So that might be one where you guys want to attend and take note as well.
Great. All in favor? And that's like your right, Mr. Kuchar, it's just an amendment for that original bylaw. Okay, up next we have some new business discussion required regarding the appointment for the AMO board, which I just discussed as for the Northern Caucus. So I need council to approve a motion that the council hereby supports nomination of Rick Dumas to the AMO 22 to 24 board of directors, assuming I get reelected in the fall of 22, and that will stand for 2 more years. So Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Reynolds. Any questions?
Are you sure you're not spreading yourself too thin?
Yeah.
I'm a little worried.
Good. Don't get getting thin on top, sir.
He's retired now. It's a perfect time to.
Yeah. Any questions?
I guess I would just say, I think I've seen mayors of other cities and municipalities who get known by everybody across the province and the work they're able to do behind the scenes. I think about Greenstone's largesse that they would always get with Michael Power or Atikokan. I just think it's really important that the mayor have that kind of standing in the province.
Yeah, absolutely. Your relationship with ministers becomes much more valuable, and with the next the next 4 years with the PC government as a majority, and next 2 years on the AMO is going to give them a lot of opportunities to bring our voice. And then with, of course, even having an additional member from the Thunder Bay Atikokan riding, Kevin Holland. We all know Kevin. He's been a 30-year councillor and mayor of the community. So it's a good fit, and hopefully we'll have some traction over the next 2 years or all 4 years of the term. All good? All in favor?
Yeah.
Carried. Thank you. Requests have been received from the municipality of Shunya seeking support of their resolution pertaining to the Community School Alliance action. Moved by Councillor Balance and Councillor Lake. Any questions on that? Councillor Lake.
So this is about closing small schools, right?
Yeah.
So, and we've had that, obviously our board has lots of small schools, and we know what communities mean in places like Manitowoc has 90 kids in their high school. but it's the center of the school or center of the community. So I certainly support anything that keeps rural schools open.
Okay. And I mean, the big one is about this, you know, every child has a right to be schooled within their community. And at some point, I think, you know, with, you know, prime example showing you like it's only a quick bus ride into the city. It has to be pragmatically looked at from the provincial and the local board. Say if there's only 5 kids running a school, you know, I'm using that as an example, but there are situations where each individual board has to make this. So we fully support it, but the governance body of any district school board has to look at that as well. So we're in favor of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Up next, request has been received from District and Municipality of Muskoka seeking support of the resolution pertaining to the annual emergency excise exemption. And what this is, I do my first mover, second Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Rounds, is basically in regards to emergency preparedness. Their communities does a lot of calls. They're saying why should they have to continue to have emergency preparedness training when there are a lot of calls? So I don't know if I fully agree with that, but any comments?
This is that exercise we do once a year where you do a tabletop, like a major catastrophe in the area.
Yeah, similar.
Seems like
Yeah, so I'll provide a little context because I'd say administratively we don't support this.
Okay.
So what, you know, we work with the province through emergency management control. And what you have to go through is for your municipality, you go through a hierarchy within a template, you know, where you rank, you know, potential emergency responses, i.e. disasters, issues. And then what you do based on that ranking that you submit to the province, that's how you build your emergency control group planning and the exercises that you work through. So to be, you know, in our case, you know, it's fairly straightforward because of, you know, we're geographically isolated, but the exercises we go through are, you know, a train disaster. It never happens, but that's one we certainly practice. You know, highway closure due to washouts, due to, you know, blizzards and you know, snowfall accumulations, forest fires. Right. So to say that, you know, you've attended a water main break as an emergency, yeah, it's declared an emergency because it's water related, but it's a very specific protocol how you deal with that. I think, you know, in our case, it's really important we go through those exercises. And the other thing that it allows us to do is to work with our partners so that we're all aligned in the event of an emergency, right? Because you only know how good your plan is until you actually have to test it in a real emergency. So this is kind of an unusual one to see, to be honest. It looks like more of a cost saving than anything else.
Yeah. Doesn't make sense. And like I said, I didn't support it either because the reality is you still need to have a focus on your emergency control group, make sure that your municipality is going forward. And Muskoka is a big area. So, I mean, I'm surprised, even though I have a lot of calls, but that's right, frivolous. Any other discussion? Anybody in favor, or would just table it? Table, thank you. Up next, we have a request from the town of Orangeville seeking support for a resolution pertaining to dissolving the Ontario Land Tribunal. Offered to all members, moved by Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Reynolds. Any questions on that?
That was the acronym I didn't know. OLT is Ontario Land Tribunal. So I don't actually, does that affect us at all?
It hasn't, but it could.
Could, yeah.
So it's certainly more prevalent in, you know, the larger centers in Ontario. And really the issue with the Ontario Land Tribunal from a municipal perspective is it doesn't take into account the municipal perspective. So it's not a board that's represented or appointed by the municipality. It's actually appointed by the province. Okay. And it has powers that can intersect with what a municipality wants through its OP and zoning bylaw. So I don't know of any municipality that supports it. It doesn't work. And generally what it creates is just appeal upon appeal upon appeal upon appeal.
Another layer of red tape is what it is.
When the municipality has every right to make decisions.
Of course.
Its own official plan, its own boundaries. Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
And here's another thing too, is because we have two sets of boundaries. We have the proper boundaries and we have the ground boundaries. So within our municipal boundaries, it's quite substantial. So if we want to do anything, we should be able to go to the Crown and say, here's the plan, falls within our official plan, let's get it done. But then somebody says, no, got to go to here. Tribunal takes all that time, blah, blah, blah. Maybe it doesn't approve for 2 years. Investor A, B, or C has just gone away because it doesn't fit within their mandate. All good? So I'll call that as a table. Next, we have a request we received from the City of Cambridge seeking support in the resolution pertaining to the request of the Province of Ontario plan of action to address joint several liability. As Mr. Skorchenski just said, typically the joint several liability situation is coming to always the deepest pockets. So Councillor Valens, Councillor Lake, second. Questions on that?
So the term that is the opposite of joint and several is proportionate. And that would be in the case of an accident, say, well, we talked ATVs, an ATV accident on municipal property, whoever was responsible for the accident will pay the greater proportion, even though we have deeper pockets.
Correct.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, but the deep pocket still comes banging on your door when it's had nothing to do with the municipality, you know, and then it's a highway accident, you know, you're going down a highway and you spun out. Well, if you win the municipal boundary, why is it coming back to the municipality? It's a Highway 17, the Queens and Kings highways. Why?
We get named every time when there's an accident on Highway 17 in our municipal boundaries.
Yeah.
And we have to get our lawyers to send a note off saying, you know, we're not to be held liable. And if, you know, this proceeds, we will countersue and we will look for damages because.
Which still costs money.
Of course.
So Abel's been working on it for a while and trying to follow through. So maybe this term of this government will get it resolved so the insurance companies don't have the power to and get more going with fees and charges and the cost of insurance. So maybe we can have a little bit of pushback there. So this will probably be on the agenda for Abel coming up at the AGM. All good?
Yeah, I saw that.
Terry? Okay, up next request from student municipality Chatham Kent to support a resolution pertaining to retirement home funding. Moved by Councillor Allen, second by Councillor Lake. Any questions on that? Councillor Lake, no?
We don't have a
We don't have
retirement.
But I mean, it's supportive of the funding model and any retirement homes that are underfunded and privately run. And, you know, again, the pockets are always only so deep. So I think the government has to make its decision on where to best fund those dollars that they receive. And, you know, the cost reality is, as we all know, even with our home facility is supportive, we come in at a very low rate of cost, you know, and bigger centers and bigger homes and a lot of homes are like, as you can see in here, $1,500, $6,000, you know. Unless you won the lottery before you retire, most people don't have pensions in Canada. There's only 30% of Canadians have pensions. So how do you go into a retirement home with no income?
And so, I mean, we've talked a lot about the continuum of care, right? Like in a municipality, you should be able to be born and then live your whole life to the time that you die and stay in your community. That's the goal of any municipality. We don't have a retirement home, but what is normally their place in that continuum?
So it really doesn't exist within, like I would, from a purely Ontario healthcare perspective, it doesn't exist in the sense that retirement homes are governed by its own act because they're privately owned and they're for-profit organizations.
So I don't.
So they're completely different than the Manor as an example.
Okay.
And then the Manor is, you know, probably an anomaly in Ontario where it's funded by the municipality and, you know, the local healthcare group. Right. So this is the difference with the Retirement Act. And if you recall, it's why we did look at a retirement home initially with the Manor, is we didn't want to fall under the act because we weren't going to be a for-profit corporation. We were going to be a not-for-profit.
And I'm not as thrilled to say we should support a for-profit organization. Right? To me, that's not the model that we went with for a reason, right? It should be publicly funded and it should be transparent.
There was one part of it there, whereas currently 60% of the Ontario retirement homes that are small facilities under 70 beds are failing financially due to aging, intimate closure risk of losing and loss of supportive, safe and secure environments for over 60,000 retirement home residents in Ontario. This is the one that catches me. And I know that there are privately run, but the reality is if the government can either some way look at those based on their financial means, because you're right, I'm not going to give a private company money they're making profit but not putting anything back into the home and paying their staff really nothing. So but to look at each case, so it's a really mixed up, because they're looking for funding overall.
Yeah.
But if they identified it differently, by all means, if you don't like to support it, that's fine. Because I think the fact is, as Mr. Skorchenski said, it is about private. It's not about public.
Well, and that's the issue to me, right? Is I fully support the public healthcare system, and certainly would want to see people be able to live in their communities, but I don't.
revenue market, I don't know if it's foreign buying opportunities, whatever it is, but I mean, in Toronto, when I was just down there, when I visited Wendy's mother, it's talking about the reality of getting pushed out of your apartment. They're offering you incentives to leave your apartment. You know, $10,000 will give you to move out of your apartment because the rent's only like $1,100. So they get Joe, they get Jack the rent up to $3,000.
Yeah.
Who's renting for $3,000? I don't understand that. Everywhere we lived, they're building new condos and skyscrapers. But
Do we
Yeah.
have retirement homes on the North Shore?
just under Bay.
Under Bay,
Just
right,
under
okay.
Bay.
No, okay.
So this doesn't really impact
No,
our
it's
region.
just southern.
So I hate to,
Table it or? it's up to
I
you,
would,
yeah?
I would vote to take.
Table?
I'm okay with tabling.
That's fine, yeah, appreciate it. It's just because it's too much in there to try to break up
Yeah.
and say you support one and not the other. Request were received from the town of Aurora seeking support of their resolution pertaining to the private members bill on Kira, am I pronouncing that right? Kira as well. Thank you. And, well, I got 2 copies of the Mr. Tide. So this, I'm sorry, I just have to get this one off, this one, just a separate copy of that. Oh, I'll move by Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Balance. And any questions on that?
It's a no-brainer to, to support anything that protects women and raises awareness of domestic violence.
Absolutely.
I think
All
that's
good?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're lucky, we've got a real advocate in Marathon with Rhea and the group from
Yeah.
Marjorie House that does a good job, I think, in this municipality, but that should be everywhere in Ontario.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate that. And all in favor, carried. Thank you. Yes, and we are lucky to have the facility we have here in Marathon that supports all that and brings safety to them. I just have to write a note under because it's a copy of the other motion for this to get a re-signed and reworded. And prior to adjournment, I just want to take the opportunity again to thank our student councilors for all the good work they've done. And we have Canada Day. We won't be meeting before no, we will on the 20th.
We have one more meeting.
Yeah,
yeah, in June.
We're just gearing up for the Canada Day celebrations at Penn Lake this year. Tessa Suki has put an activity function for the day out, and there'll be more highlights within the community over our website as well as the local advertising. There'll be 11 till 4 p.m. at Penn Lake Park, carnival games, bouncy castles, kids activities, photo booth, vendor market, food and drink vendors, volleyball tournament, cotton candy, Canada Day cake, music by Dr. J and Mr. Balance, Single Canada.
Get ready, I'll be the remix.
Did you find a No Canada singer yet? Okay, so anybody out there wants to sing O Canada for the opening thing, you can contact Tessa there. She
I nominate Megan Kim. She always does a great job.
She does do a great job. Yeah.
Bring your own lawn chair, be comfortable for the activities. There are tables and the benches at the park, but bring your own as always. And there's also a 4-on-4 beach volleyball that day, so contact the town and sign up your team or text Jim at 228-3384, and that will be your registration. So Tessa can share all that information with you as well in regards to that.
4 counselors, I don't know.
Yeah.
Get a team together.
Yeah, that would be fun. Okay, anything else?
It's great to see fireworks back.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Okay, we will adjourn at the hour of 5:05. Councillor Lake, second by Councillor Brown. Thank you and have a good night.
Yeah.